Welcome back. This is part two of my incredible conversation with Sydney from Dating with Depth Society. In this episode, we dive deeper into the self trust around dating, why we tend to be attracted by unavailable people, and how to spot these patterns so we can start dating from a place of healthy love and not activation. Enjoy.
There are lots of things that can set someone off that might be anxious in a relationship that might be completely benign. However, I think the danger in that is people will be like, "Oh, that's just my own thing." Like, they didn't text back when they said they were going to text back and that had a ping, but like I must just be wrong about that. And then that becomes a pattern. Like they say they're going to text or they say they're going to call and they don't, and then we keep dismissing it rather than acknowledging one time, okay, let's talk ourselves out of it. Let's bring, like, what are some other scenarios that happened here? Maybe they got caught up, whatever may have happened. One time, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. But if it keeps happening over and over, we need to learn to not dismiss, like, oh, no, that's just my own thing to deal with. It's like, no, now there's a pattern of them saying they're going to do something. You say they're going to text whatever, and then they don't. And then you feel that ambiguity in your body. Like, we feel that. Sometimes it's our own fear. We need to have the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes it's a pattern in that person and it's actually telling us something about their intentions or where their feelings are at. And it's so important to not dismiss that. So you need to leave room for it to be a one-off scenario, to be able to observe if it's a pattern over time. And then once you recognize that pattern, to have, I don't exactly know what it is, bravery, resolve,
Courage.
courage to ask about it, and to be okay with maybe hearing some bad news. Or I think the more dangerous part, and maybe you had even said this in a comment, someone says, no, I feel totally fine. I'm still really into this. But in your body, you feel, oh, I'm still feeling like ambiguity from them. They say everything's fine, but I still feel really anxious. I think that's worth listening to. Like our bodies pick up on things faster than our brains will. And sometimes it's fear based, sometimes it's intuition based. And just not dismissing it, noticing those patterns over time, I think can help people develop that self trust and perhaps avoid situations that could be more painful down the line.
Yeah, it's funny actually. It's not funny, but it's something like, okay, it might be intuition, it might be fear, it might be an attachment wound, it might be you go figure it out, right? It's like kind of get an instruction manual, kind of understand exactly where yeah, please, right? It would
You create your own instruction manual,
yeah.
your experiences.
Yeah, but to create it I have to go through a lot of stuff, then it's like, okay, maybe not it's not as good or as fun, I should say. But when it comes to ambiguity, is I understand why it's hard to bring clarity into it, because if it's a coin flip, either depending on the person, on the other person, either they have the capacity to move things forward or they don't. And this is assuming that the person have good intentions, that you have chosen based on your own intuition and connection and resonance. Now is in terms of capacity, right? Everything can be there, but if capacity or readiness are not there, we're just it cannot be happening. And the thing is if I get rejected, what would that say about me? Even though we logically understand that it has more to do about them, their capacity, their readiness, and all of that, but how our bodies feel, well, maybe I wasn't worth it, because if I was worth it, they would have the capacity, or maybe I wasn't good enough, or maybe I'm not just somebody who deserves that kind of person. And it's not that we're actively thinking about it, just we feel it, and it's so painful. And to override and to try to just bring those two into have that being in sync, that hey, logically, yeah, we understand, but body wise we still have those old wounds of, you know when I was a kid I wasn't chosen, or maybe that person cheated, or maybe that person says something but it didn't mean it. So it is that fear that a lot of people would rather be in ambiguity, even if it drains them emotionally, because that inconsistency is just the spikes that when They're there, they're amazing, but when they withdraw, you just feel like you're losing yourself, and then they come back and they just, and it's
Mm,
draining. And until you bring that clarity, nothing's going to happen. And I know it's painful, and I know it's like, best case scenario, you build something cool. Worst case scenario, you realize they don't have the capacity to move things forward, and you move on, as painful as it is. But I mean, I don't know, it's tough.
I think there is always pain in it. And the more that we get to know someone, if we're dating them, the longer that we date them, the more closeness that we share, I think the more pain there is if it doesn't work out. And I think, it's easier to face rejection. Like, say you meet someone for the first time, you ask for their number and they say no. That rejection, it might sting a little bit, but that's easier than you've spent weeks or months with this person, getting to know them, sharing more closeness. And then even if it doesn't work out and it's because of their own capacity limitations, it's always going to be painful because they saw us, they got to know us. There may always be this inner voice that says, "Oh, was it something about me? Like, was I not enough if I had done this?" And I think, and and if we can see logically, like, no, it was their own capacity. Like, I showed up so well, I showed up true to myself. And so if it doesn't work out, that just means that it wasn't meant to be. There might still be pain underneath that. And I think so many people try to like push that down. They're like, no, it was all them. It was all them. Nothing to do with me. It's like we can still allow that pain to exist. We can still feel it. We can talk ourselves through. We could say this hurts. Like it sucks that I wasn't chosen. I showed up really well. Like they saw me. And also I just didn't have the capacity. It just wasn't the person. Like I have to believe that there's a bigger purpose and meaning to this. And we can still like acknowledge that pain. We don't have to pretend like it's not painful because we don't want it to be painful. I think that's when we get into, more like long-term issues when we try to just always push that down rather than just being like, no, that sucks. It freaking hurts. I'm going to cry a little bit of it. I'm going to be angry. That's what allows us to move through that. That's what allows us to move through those emotions, to connect with the next person and and move forward with our lives so we can eventually find that person that will continue to choose us. And I also something I believe so deeply in, and you've said like for Daniel, so I'll say for Sydney, I find this true to myself. Something that is so important to me, and not everyone may agree with this, but if someone like breaks up with me, walks away, discontinues a connection, that's done. That's done in my mind. I'm like, the person that is like meant to stay, will work through this stuff. So anybody that leaves, goodbye. I'm not waiting for you to come back. I'm going to trust that that is, protection from something larger that I can see, and you were never meant to be there. I know that for me, it's true that the right person will always stay. And so I just say that because I don't know if there's someone listening to this that might need to hear that for themselves. Because I think a lot of times people wait for people to come back. And I don't want to project all of my beliefs onto other people, but I believe that so deeply. If someone leaves, goodbye. I wish you luck in your life, but I'm not. That's it for me.
I'm gonna put that last statement on the box because I'm gonna come back in a couple of minutes. What you said about the how some rejections hurt more than others. Yes, if you ask somebody for the number and they reject you, yeah, that's just an ego pain, right? Okay, maybe my ego got bruised. But once you get into that situation where clearly the connection is there, the attraction is there, and the resonance, or the you are moving into the same, brain wavelength, and you just energetically frequency, however you want to see it, right? Clearly there's something there, and then you get quote unquote rejected, lack of capacity, bad timing, or whatever other reasons might be. That is an attachment and almost existential rejection that is not even big. It's like it just really hurts at a deeper level.
Mm,
And one thing that I learned the hard way is understanding does not prevent pain. I try so hard to, if I understand things at a deeper level, maybe I can avoid pain. I will avoid suffering, because suffering I think is optional. Is the rumination is just, oh, maybe I wasn't enough. But even if I understand exactly what patterns were in the other person. I can understand and sympathize and empathize exactly what happened. I not take it personally. Still painful,
Mhm.
still very painful. And I try my best not to feel pain because I'm somebody who feels like deeply and strongly, and I'll allow the emotion to be there. And when you go through a few things, you're like, I don't want to feel pain again. No. So let me try to rationalize my way to understand. Maybe if I understand I don't feel pain, that doesn't work. It's just so you either, as you say, you either repress it and that comes an issue later on, or go through it and just accept it. And what you said about the last thing when somebody leaves, that I have it here in a box, is what my marriage taught me was when I got divorced, because this was one of the few relationships that you see that when a breakup or a divorce happens, both people are deeply heartbroken. As I said, earlier, was a death by a thousand cuts, just small things that accumulate over time. We didn't have the tools or even a lot of insecurity, fears, self doubt came into play at the perfect time and it just imploded. And we tried and it just it couldn't happen. So when that divorce happened, we're still friends. I we still deeply care for one another, even though she lives in a different state. I was confused. I was like, it doesn't make any sense. What was the point of going through a 9-year relationship and just ended like that? It's like when you imagine yourself being with a person, because that's another thing about grief. Like you're not only grieving the person, you're grieving the relationship, you're grieving your routine, you're grieving your best friend, you're grieving the person you were in a relationship, you're grieving the future that you imagine. So it's so much grief going on.
Mhm.
And to me, it's like, I don't understand. It doesn't, she and I took it differently. She got angry at life, at God, or whoever. Me, I was confused. I was like, what was the purpose of all of this? And my biggest transformation in life, like truly, and the route to my full authentic self, and it's not that I wasn't authentic in the past. I used to deem myself a lot. I used to shrink and play small a lot, which is another visibility issue that I'm working on. But it came after that divorce, and what I came to realize, whether I'm gaslighting myself or not, maybe I am, but it's my experience, so better for me, right? Is that that sort of contract was fulfilled. Like whatever we both of us had to experience in that relationship wasn't meant to last during our entire life, but it was, as painful as it was. I tell everyone, I've been leaning more into the concept of the ironic tragedy of life. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I mean, I can understand what the term means, the ironic
Yeah.
tragedy of life, but I don't know if there's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
broader theory around that. I haven't heard of it.
Well, for those who are listening, is that the ironic tragedy of life is that life has to be lived forward, but it only makes sense in reverse.
Mm,
So only with enough time and distance, you can look back at the things that you hated when they happened. You never wanted to happen, but you're kind of glad they happened because they made you who you are today. So if I hadn't gone through that pain, through that rock bottom, if I hadn't gone through all of that, I wouldn't have been the person that I am today. I wouldn't have found my meaning, my purpose, my direction in life. Which, because for 30 plus years, and I actually made a video about it. It's like I thought that this meaning, purpose, and passion was bullshit. I never experienced that. And after going through the lowest point of my life, I said, okay, this was meant for this. And yeah, it was painful. But going back to the point, it's like some people might leave. I do feel that everyone comes across your path for a reason, to teach you
mhm.
something, to reveal something. And sure, we would rather be just that one person that would last our entire life. But seems to me, based on what everyone experiencing, it's not how it works.
No, I think hitting those rock bottoms, those real heartbreak, and experiencing those, there's always something amazing on the other side of it. And it's really up to us to find the reason in it and also be willing to tolerate when it's still not making sense. Be willing to sit in the confusion of it and be like, why did this happen? Why did this really painful thing happen? And I have found in my life anytime I'm searching for something, I don't find it. If I just allow myself to be in a place where I'm like, I just have to wait. I just have to wait for the moment where this makes sense. When we can sit in that space and we can receive that rather than looking for it, um, that's when we're really going to be able to make sense of those painful experiences. Because, like you said, things only make sense in hindsight. Like we only make sense of it in reverse, and we can't. At least I have found this. We can't get to the point where it makes sense any faster than it's going to happen. And I think in trying to do that, we just create more suffering for ourselves. Why doesn't this make sense? I still don't understand this. There's a real skill in just being able to tolerate the discomfort of not understanding why something really painful has happened and to trust that the reason will make sense eventually. Like eventually we will find out why we experience this really hard thing. And people go through incredibly hard things in life, incredibly unfair, painful experiences. Um, and and as fair as they may be, people create really beautiful things out of those things. I was listening to a TED talk the other day for this woman who works for this organization that was started by a family whose daughter was killed by an ex-boyfriend. And they're like, if people were just educated and they understood the signs of this before it escalates to the point where where it ended up there, then we can prevent this from happening. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing when people create things for other people out of their own pain. Like nothing is going to bring their daughter back, and yet they still made it a mission to educate, to get this out into the world so people can recognize the signs of these sort of really toxic or that can turn into a violent relationship. And so I don't think I would never wish a tragedy on anyone. And I think it says something really beautiful about people when we can still make meaning out of that and we can create change from those tragedies. And it doesn't have to be as extreme as that example. It can be a heartbreak. It can be a relationship that doesn't work out. Being a human is freaking hard. Like we don't what like it just is. We all go through really hard emotions. Like we all go through such hard things. It is just not easy for anybody. And then I think we forget that a lot. And we lose compassion for other people and just the hard experiences that we're having. We get so caught up in ourselves and what we're experiencing that we forget that other people are going through really hard things too. That doesn't excuse our behavior. It doesn't mean we have to be, put up with being treated like shit by people, but um, life isn't easy for anyone.
When you said that life is freaking hard, I think that was understatement of the decade. It just it
Yeah.
is, and I guess that's what makes the whole experience the experience, right? Is as you
Hmm.
said earlier, if everything was peaceful and happy, would even be peaceful and happy if we cannot have the contrast of the pain and the suffering or the grief or the anger or whatever, right? It's one of those things that we have to live through that. And that concept of the ironic tragedy of life has helped me deal with things in the future. It's like, okay, I'm going through some pain right now, whether it's business or longing or any other. It's like, I don't understand why I'm going through this now. I might not see it now. Might not see it in 6 months, in a year, but at some point I'll look back and say, oh, I knew why. Wasn't fun,
Hmm.
but I knew why. So at least gives me some. That's how sort of how I cope to some capacity. Once again, I could be gaslighting myself. I don't care. At least I'm having a little bit better experience than in the past. So we'll see. But when you said about people creating beautiful things out of pain or suffering or out of bad things that happen to them, I think partially that was the reason why I created the podcast, not exactly to explore people's pains and sufferings and tragedies, but more so that I believe everyone has a piece of the puzzle. So I'm trying to
Hmm.
collect as many as I can so I can not only understand myself better, understand other people better, understand life better, and maybe have a cheat code where okay, it doesn't have to be that hard.
Hmm. Yeah. And people want meaning and purpose in their lives. And when we can create meaning and purpose out of the hard things that we've been through, um, that that creates meaning and purpose, right? Like that's the things that we've been through can be the catalyst to finding that meaning in our lives, which I think so many of us are searching for, and so many of us have and don't realize that we have. And I think there is such value in sharing all of our perspectives because not one of us, not a single one of us, has the same life as the other person. There is no circumstance in which everything aligns between person to person, and you have no idea who you can impact by sharing your perspective or being someone who brings together the perspectives of other people to share. You have no idea what people can get from that. And I do think life is a lot of just putting the puzzle pieces together. Like I know some of my biggest realizations have come not from just one I mean, it feels like it comes from one moment, and then I realize something amazing about my life, like or the motivation to like start the page that I did. But it's a lot of it is just little collections, like you said, collecting the little pieces of the puzzle, and then eventually you put together an image. Oh, that's the thing. And it's with all those little things that led to it. So, um, I do think that there is an aspect in which whatever you want to believe in, whatever spiritual base, or even if you're not spiritual, but I do think that there is a part of life that brings together those puzzle pieces for people. And just talking through all of us all of the time, like yeah, I do find myself to be a very spiritual person, and something that I've wanted to say a couple of times throughout this conversation, but something that's so important is our mindset in things. If we are like, this sucks, this hurts, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to get anything out of this. You're not going to get anything out of it. Like if you approach situations, and I thought of this first, going back a bit now, what we were talking about approaching social situations, or getting out of our comfort zone, going to events. I have found the best time that I've had is when I've been like, I'm going to look for the good in this. I'm going to look for the good parts. Even if something goes wrong, like you just have to direct your mental energy somewhere. Um, and so having that mindset of that this is really painful. I don't know why I'm going through this, but I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find why I'm going through this. That makes such a big difference versus being like, this sucks, this is painful, I'm not gonna get anything out of this. You really do have to direct your attention. And I know I'm drawing on here, but one thing that one of my friends recently told me about going on a color walk, and you go on a walk and you look for a specific color, or people experience this. You buy a car and then all of a sudden you're seeing that car everywhere. Like your brain really does have a bias for what it's primed to see. So when you prime it to see good things or opportunities, you're going to see so many more of those. And I think that's such an important thing to take into any situation in life, really.
I love that you said that. I'm going to put spirituality here quickly to address that. That mindset is huge. It's like huge in terms of, and I'm obsessed with neuroscience and all of that. And we have something called the reticular activating system, which is what filters our reality. Our, as you were saying, it's like when we pay attention, or when to our brain something is important, it starts to pay attention to it. So all of our senses, our touch, smell, taste, whatever side, collect roughly 11 million bits of information per second. Or our prefrontal cortex, how we analyze things, can only process 30 to 50. So
Mm-hmm.
99.9% of our reality, or what we perceive, gets filtered out based on our own belief. And I do that, this for people that keep saying that dating is a numbers game. It's like, well, if you believe that, that's when you encounter it. And the best metaphor and analogy that I found is like, imagine that you're going from, I don't know exactly the distance, but you can imagine that since you're in Tennessee, you're going from Nashville to Knoxville. I don't know how long that drive is or whatever, but imagine that you put in your GPS, taking tolls or just going fast. It might take you, I don't know, 2 hours, hypothetically speaking. I don't know exactly how long. Okay, 2 hours. What if I avoid tolls? Maybe 2.5 hours. Okay, what if I avoid highways? Well, it might take you like 4 or 5 hours. Okay, what if I bike there? Well, it might take you like a couple of days. What if I walk? Well, maybe like a week. Once again, hypothetically speaking. what people are doing, telling themselves that dating is a numbers game, is putting that setting on the GPS like walking. Yeah, your brain's going to show you all of those people that you're not in alignment with, that they're not a good match for you, because that's what you have primed your brain to look for. Instead, if you think it's like, oh no, my person's coming my way, and it's not a numbers game, it will cross my path. You have more chances to spot that person that you can connect with than if you think that it's a numbers game. I have a good friend of mine. She she came to me once and said, "Hey, look, I like a common friend of ours. Like, I really like him. I don't know if I should shoot my shot." I was like, "Before you do anything, let me do some research and see
Mhm.
if he's into you." So I talked to the guy without letting him know that she was into him, and he basically told me, "Say, no, I mean, I really like her. She's cool, but I'm not into her." Cool. I reached out to my friends. Like, sadly, he really values you as a friend. He's not that into you. And she said, "Of course, people I'm into, they're not into me." I said, "Well, you have to start changing that, because what your brain is looking for are those people who probably energetically or whatever are not going to be into you. And you can literally have one person in front of you that you could be attracted to, and he might like you back, but your brain completely filters it out because of that belief." And that's so I love that you brought this mindset, this in terms of how we perceive things when spot the colors or the cars we're buying, because now to our brain is important. And I know I said a lot, but going back to the spirituality from this box over here, I wasn't spiritual, even though I went to a Catholic school back home and all of that, but I wasn't really religious or spiritual. This divorce, this whole thing, this whole journey since 2023 have just changed completely, because a lot of things that I've done in my life made no sense. Even from the podcast to public speaking to building what I'm building, coming from a place, somebody who was very shy, introverted, socially anxious, who started for 20 plus years. And when I start following my intuition, that's okay, I'll do the podcast, even though it doesn't seem right logically, but intuition follows. I discover a talent that I didn't know I had. The same with public speaking. Everything is like, okay, none of this makes sense unless there's something more divine guiding you there.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's how I approach things, and whether it's true or not, I choose to be true, and but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives I find it gives more meaning to my life when I believe that there is something greater, or at least, gives more hope and trust in things. And people are going to be on their own journeys with that. I would never project my own spiritual beliefs onto somebody else, because I think we all have to arrive at our own conclusions to that. But for myself personally, it gives me more meaning in my life, and more faith in things when I believe that there is something bigger in the works there. Um, you were talking about dating and a numbers game. Oh, and being attracted to people that aren't attracted to you back. I do have this working theory, and I haven't developed all of my thoughts around it. But I'm like, is the reason why people are struggling to find someone to date so much, is it because we're all just attracted to people that are bad for us, that are gonna like reinforce those old wounds? And I've actually gotten to a place in my own life where I've realized all of the times that I've followed like a strong pull or a strong attraction to somebody, it hasn't gone very well. So I'm at a place in my own life now where I'm like, you know what? I'm actually going to pay attention to the people I don't feel myself drawn toward. And maybe those are actually the better people suited for me, because I just realized, my own patterning of the people that I've been attracted to and gone after, that hasn't gone very well. So let's try to change my approach to that. And that's a working theory. I don't have a conclusion on my thought to that. Something that's still in the works there, but seems to be true.
I love that you share that. And if you could, my curiosity goes places. If you could describe, yeah, if you can describe the kind of pull and drawn that you felt towards some people in the past. And the reason why I'm asking this question is because I have like another good friend of mine that she's not that if things felt too plain and boring, she's like, okay, that's not what I want. And when things felt exciting, oh, that's what I want, and ended up not being the case. But you're somebody with, honestly, as I said, a reason why I brought you to a podcast and I reached out to you because your content was a breath of fresh air. It was something like, oh, I'm not alone in my way of thinking. Awesome. And the way that we process things. But is that it's funny because when I'm drawn to someone, initially physically, because attraction is just it just that has to we cannot control who we're attracted to. It's that it's not that you consciously chose to say, okay, I'm going to be attracted to that person, or I'm not going to be attracted to that person. Attraction just happens. And then we say, okay, let me explore more. So I might be attracted physically to someone initially. And once I get to know the person more, okay, still she's cute and all that, but I don't see the alignment. So keep it as a friendship. I wonder in those situations for you when you felt drawn to what was the internal experience?
Um, it's so hard to describe, but it's just this pull. And I think a lot of it for me is like mystery. And I think that what feels like mystery or excitement is actually just unavailability in that person. Um, and uh, and yeah, I've just found myself. I mean, I've realized my own patterns in this because I have dated several unavailable people. Um, and I think a lot of people experience this actually of being drawn to the mystery when really that mystery is just that person doesn't know how they feel. And something that I've seen in just different podcasts and things that I've listened to, like Vanessa Ben Edwards is a researcher, and I think she's amazing. And she, you know, our brains and our bodies are so good at picking up on the tiniest um what do I want to call it? The tiniest observations about somebody else. Like she talks about how we can pick up fear from people if they give us a fear response by just like widening their eyeballs. Like that can trigger fear in us. And so who knows what our subconscious can pick up on in somebody else that makes us feel a pull or drawn to them. And if we have a patterning of going after unavailable people, and those are the people that we're drawn towards, we need to make a conscious decision to realize that and to change that a little bit. And also, I think too, this is a theory that I'm 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 still developing. I'm still working my thoughts on this. Obviously, there is an element of physical attraction that's purely physical. That person, they look good. I like that type. Whatever. I'm physically attracted to them. And I do think there can be an element of sensing that mystery or that unavailability in them, that excitement, that anxiety that we perceive as excitement that can make us more physically attracted to someone. This is a theory I'm developing. I actually don't know if there's research on this or whatnot, but I do know that our attraction to people can grow. So there can be someone that we're not physically attracted to right off the bat that we can grow to be physically attracted to by getting to know them. And a couple of examples of this, I don't know if you've seen Married at First Sight, but Jamie and Doug, they're like the first season, and Jamie sees Doug for the first time at the altar. They get married. She has a complete panic attack. She's like, I'm not attracted to this guy at all. She freaks out like it's all on the show. They have 4 kids now. They've been married for like over a decade. So attraction can grow in that way. Same with like Michelle and Barack Obama. Like Michelle has said, yeah, I wasn't attracted to Barack at first. Like I didn't want to go out with him. He asked me out. I kept not going out with him. Look at them now. So I just think that there is this element of who we're physically attracted to right off the bat. Like we can develop physical attraction to somebody else over time. And I think this has been proven through those, little case studies. So again, this is something that I'm developing that in my own mind. I don't have any conclusions around it, but I think it's an interesting thing for me to think about.
You keep making me put things in a box because you said a lot of great things, and then it's like, okay, I have my brain's all over the place, which I love. I'm gonna put here
My fingers all over the place too.
I'll put here the unavailability for a moment. want to address the last point first. Yes, I think that it's just part of a perception. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So that
Mm,
over time is that I think that's why partially for me I develop friendships first. I want to see the person with more than one angle, one more lens through getting to know them and interacting with them, while at the same time allowing that person to see me with different angles, different lenses, because I'm somebody, and this is just how I view dating, relationships, and life, and all of that is I'll never pursue someone ever that I don't have a feeling, a sense that she's at least curious about me, right?
mm.
It's those who are very persistent. Look, it's funny. You created a video about not creating this fantasy early stages, and I told you that I thought that the Lulu was the way. It apparently wasn't, and and being delusional works for business. Being persistent works for business. Being delusional works for believing that your person might come. But to me, being delusional about the potential and being persistent is not really for me. It doesn't really work, because to me it's like, okay, I want to pursue somebody who at least is curious to some capacity about me, and then we can explore things, and if we go somewhere, great. But going after and on and on and on, I know that some people have said, oh, my husband just did this for years, I mean for months or whatever, until finally said yes, and I'm glad I did. I don't have the emotional capacity, yeah, to do so, because I want to create a connection rather than, okay, I like you, just please date me. So that being said, is the fact that things can evolve, as you said, change over time. You might see somebody, a guy who's like, nah, he's all right, but I'm not really into him, and then you see different sides of him. It's like, oh shit, actually I'm starting to develop feelings, or I'm still being attracted to him without even trying or even exploring romantic connection first. So I think that's why part of me intuitively I've gone through your friends and then potential romantic partners. So that's one. And with the unavailability, bringing from this box, I think that potentially, once again, it's not that we have been talking for a while. I don't know you very well, but the pattern that I see from other people might be yours as well, might be different. Is that because the people I've been attracted to is after I got divorced, unavailable people, go figure. But what I've discovered is that sometimes is the fear of being hurt, truly being open and explore something. Because if somebody's not available, well, we couldn't do anything. They were not available. But what if they're available and then they don't choose us? Well,
Mm,
they are available and they break us heart. Then what would that say about us? And
mm,
sometimes it's a protecting mechanism without even knowing, because I think that loving deeply, to me, requires facing all three fears simultaneously. Okay, I might be fully seen, I might become dependent, which is a big one that a lot of people are scared of. Like, I don't want this person to be my emotional anchor, and yet it potentially could become your emotional anchor. And I might discover I'm not chosen. I'm choosing connection anyway.
mm,
Requires a level of bravery, level of courage, and sometimes I feel that we might be drawn to unavailable people without even knowing, because if things don't go well, at least it wasn't my fault. At least I won't take it personal. It's not against my self-image or my self-concept, and I can live with that. But imagine if they actually were available and they didn't choose us. It's just too painful.
mm. That, yeah, that is so true. I haven't heard that put exactly that way, but I do love that. I think that that's very insightful. There's a lot of truth to that. And I think also a lot of us are conditioned to feel like we need to earn love. And so in choosing and going after those unavailable people, that's really sort of a wound in us speaking of, oh, this person, they don't want me. If I can make them want me, then that means I'm more valuable because I made someone that didn't want me. When in reality, that's never going to happen. Like you can't make someone that's not going to choose you. So yeah, I think it's both. I think it's both of those things. I think it's going after, yeah, if you were to go after someone who is available and they still don't choose you, what does that say about you? And also, are you operating from this place of wanting to make someone who's not going to choose you? Um, and would that say something more about you if you could get them to?
And when I was listening to you, I think another thing popped into my mind that I never thought about it before, but uh, just came to me. Is that I think that we want to be wrong about ourselves. In what sense? We tend to criticize ourselves a lot. We tend to attack ourselves a lot. That maybe we're not worth it. Maybe we're not good enough. Maybe we're broken. Something's wrong with us. And if we make the unavailable people like us, then that would prove my theory wrong. Maybe it's not that I'm broken because finally somebody saw something in me that I didn't see. And I wrote this actually, now I'm making all those connections. I wrote this in part of my notes while I had to go through so many different notes of things I've journaled just for this conversation. And I think that connecting almost like a full circle with self trust and all that, what I wrote was that visibility without self trust feels like exposure, right? It's just you're exposed. Visibility with self trust becomes connection, intimacy, and freedom. But becoming visible to yourself means letting that part be seen by you, not as a flaw to be fixed, but as a child who never stopped waiting to be loved by you first. Letting your own truth, your emotions, longings, tenderness, fears rise to the surface and be felt without editing, hiding, or analyzing them away. When you become visible to yourself, your need to prove disappears. Your fear of being seen softens because you have already seen yourself. Your capacity for intimacy expands because you're no longer split in two. You no longer have to armor up. You no longer have to be the safe container for everyone else without anyone holding space for you. You let yourself be felt, and from that, you become free.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That that rings that rings very true. And I think it takes time to get there right, to be able to see ourselves and uh, yeah, to be become visible to ourselves and to experience situations that give us new insights into ourselves that allow us to see who we are in a different way. Um, I think it's always a work in progress. At least I hope.
Yeah, I mean, I think growth is just a lifelong journey, to be
I
honest.
think so too. I think so
Uh,
too.
And yeah, I think that is one of the hardest things, just to truly see ourselves and be okay with that. It's like, yes, maybe our past shouldn't define us. Our past, I'm not talking about past relationship from a few months or a couple of years, but our past from childhood, that we
Mm.
still have that memory, that emotional memory in our body. And going through, which I did a lot last year, not fun. Even got burnout because a lot of other things I was doing. What I was doing a lot of, I was clearing a lot of emotional backlog. I was just digging and digging and digging and digging. It just not from a place that I want to be healed, but from a place that, oh, I'm curious. And then I had this trigger, and then I had this layer, and then it got deeper and deeper. And I got to a point where I was just emotionally drained. I was just like so burnt out that I just didn't want to do life, in terms of I don't have energy. And I
Mm.
interviewed somebody on the podcast, and this person's like, well, you need to integrate that, what you have done. And she said, hey, I'm not lying to you. I'm only saying this because you need to take more time off that you feel comfortable right now. But everything that you have described from during the interview and after the interview and all of that, and I say, hey, what you have done in the last 9, 12 months, people take years, if not a decade, to do so. And a lot of people don't even go that. So you need to chill. I was like, okay, fine. Still didn't listen to her. I burned out again. That's a different story. But but yeah. So it's just seeing those parts of ourselves and and really reconnect to that inner child and thank them for the things that they went through, and we are the person we're today because of them. And once, I think, when we integrate those two, our adult self and our inner child, things start just really healing, and we start truly accepting ourselves, because that one was a evidence of true resilience. Honestly, I've gone through a lot of stuff growing up, and I don't know how that kid made it through. I have no idea.
Mm,
I have a lot to be grateful for, thankful for. I have no idea how it went through, and that has helped me heal a lot and just to uncover a lot of wounds from childhood that I thought that were healed. They were healed over here, not in the body. So that's
mm.
for whoever's listening right now and feel like, okay, I'm struggling. Like, I can only share my experience. Maybe somebody will resonate with it. Maybe it will help someone. But yeah,
Yeah. I, there is such a big difference between understanding and integration. And I think we have to have intention with integration and also just allow time to happen and to allow those moments to come that really make it click for us. I often think that like if we like when we see children or envision ourselves as a child, I think one thing that can help with self-love is you see like a little 2-year-old, playing along, like having fun with their parents. It's like there's no way you could see that child and not think that that child is deserving of love. Like they're just a child. They're exploring the world, and that was once us. And when we picture that child, can you really think that that child is not deserving of love? Can you think that we're not, as people, deserving of love? We were once that child. And so when I just think it's helpful to envision myself as a child and be like, oh, of course that child is deserving of love. Like they're doing nothing that would not be deserving of it. And that still exists in us. Like we are still inherently deserving of that love. There's just a lot more that has happened to us to make us think that we're not. But that child part of ourselves still lives in us. We still went through that. And so I just say that to say that everybody is inherently deserving of love and belonging. And if you think that you're not, imagine yourself as a child and try to tell yourself that that child isn't worthy of love.
yeah. I think that the whole work is to reparenting ourselves. And I read these, either read or heard. I don't know. I put stuff that I hear or read, and then I don't even know where they come up from, where they came from. It's like whatever. It was useful for me, but somebody said that if you talk to your inner child and say, "Hey, what was the phrase? It was, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you." And you either have a picture of yourself as a kid, or even you're imagining that, it will bring a lot of just grief, because that kid needed to hear that. And now you
Mm.
have created the safety to really allow your body to release that emotion. What happens a lot is like we don't create the level of safety within ourselves, and we cannot process emotions because of that. And this is something that I've been, as a man, I've been telling other guys, and I've been drilling a lot in the podcast. Last year, I went through a situation where an action needed to be, that not opportunity, but something presented to me, and I knew I needed to take a step, and that could potentially, okay, let me put it this way. Once I took the step, there was no turning back. It was an exposure step. And the action was the most basic thing. It wasn't a big deal at all. It was like something silly, but it wasn't the action that it was charged with emotion. It was what could come after that. And I remember being on my couch, and I was like, "Okay, Daniel, just take a deep breath. Don't take this action. Don't do this without being regulated." So I put some music, close my eyes, take a deep breath, and then boom, start like bawling, crying. And my brain immediately went to judging myself, like, dude, what are you crying for? This tiny thing that you need to do. And I had to put such a strong mental effort to not judge myself, to not trying to attach the feeling to the present moment. And once I was able to just calm down and let everything pass, I came to realize while doing introspection that that tiny, tiny action reveal a fear, something that happened 21, 22 years ago. And my
Mm.
body was using that as a trigger to release that. But if we, especially men, if we tend to do that, we block ourselves from feeling because our conscious mind and our limbic system are not talking to each other. So our conscious mind trying to understand why our body's reacting this way with the present evidence, and our body's like, hey, no, we're just releasing something that needed to be released from years ago, but we didn't have the capacity or the skills to do so. Therefore, we waited for the moment when we were ready to to deal with that emotional release, but we're not going to tell you exactly where it comes from. And that's why a lot of people shame themselves and judge themselves and block themselves. And I bring this story because after that moment, I think it opened the floodgates. For months, it was just waves of different things just coming because I created enough safety that, hey, it is okay to feel, it is okay to cry, it is okay to release all of this. I'm not going to judge it. I'm
Mm.
just going to sit with it, and I'll try to make sense after I go through it. And it really, it felt like I felt a lot lighter after those times. Not fun, but
Mm. It- That's what allows us to move through those moments, is to allow ourselves to feel them. And I do think that men have been done a real disservice because, men are taught from childhood, man up, don't feel that. It's wrong to cry or it's wrong to feel that. And I think as a society, we're sort of feeling that. Women want men to be more emotional so they can relate to us and our emotions. And men are struggling to do that because they have this conditioning from when they were, growing up and children to not feel those things. And so I think it's really powerful for you to share that message with everybody else, with other men, letting them know it's okay to allow those emotions to come up. And that's actually what allows you to move through them and grow from them and learn and integrate those experiences and send love to that child version of yourself that experienced those hard things that um, they didn't deserve.
yeah, once we understand that emotions are part of the human experience, we all experience those, and they just move through us. We just it's not that one is going to make us less than others. I,
Mm.
I understand, I get it, that women have been raised or conditioned that it's okay for them to feel sadness or grief, but not anger. Because if you show anger, you're crazy bitch, and if you're a guy, you're not allowed to show grief because then you're weak. So a lot of
Mm.
women, when they cry, the emotion underneath is anger, and a lot of men, when they're deeply anger, the emotion underneath is grief or sadness, and that's how they are able. Because one emotion was allowed, the other one wasn't. My case, whether it
Mm.
was lucky or not, anger was never safe to be felt in my life in terms of, I mean, I love my dad, he's awesome and all of that, but he would be someone that if you get mad at him, he would get even more mad at you. I'm like, okay, clearly it's
Mm.
not safe. And at school I was bullied a lot, and I've shared this many times on the podcast, but also I was a year ahead of everyone. So I was between a year to a year and a half younger than everyone in my class. Plus, I was a late bloom. So some people look like 15, 16, and look like 11. So clearly, if I get upset,
Mm.
there's no way I'm winning that. So anger wasn't safe for me to feel, but because my inner world was always like rich and very intense feeling wise, I used to isolate myself and sort of became the person I wish I had growing up. That's basically what I do with others. I just hold a lot of space for people, but that came from the childhood. It's not that I chose this, but I understood, okay, if I go through this and I can take the lessons, the wisdom, the insights, and the reflections, maybe I can help others see that side of themselves that they are afraid to even explore or they are unaware of.
Mm. Our emotions are teachers, and we may not always understand the lessons right away, but I think when we set the intention to want to understand what our emotions are trying to tell us or what memory that they're mimicking from childhood, we can learn a lot from that. And yeah, I do think it's really helpful for people to talk about this on platforms on platforms like this, because you never know when those little nuggets will just connect with the right people and can really lead to a lot of transformation for folks.
Yeah. Sydney, this is going to be, I'm going to split this into two episodes because we've been talking for almost 2 hours, and I could literally, with you, I could literally go for like 2, 3, 4 more hours. Like, it just awesome conversation, but I'll hate myself for when I'm editing. When I'm editing, I'm like, man, why? But it's okay. I enjoy the conversation, so I can endure the pain. So I'm probably going to cut it in two. But I I wanted to ask you like a closing question, and I definitely have to bring you back because you have so much wisdom, so much knowledge from your own experience, and you are very good at articulating and being a translator truly of
Mhm.
human longing and desires and be chosen and dating and truly like, not only around love but then around life and human experience as well. But as a closing question, what is one truth about dating, love, or longing that you wish more people gave themselves permission to admit?
Hmm. You know, what's coming to me is we talked about this earlier, but the fear of rejection. It is okay if you experience rejection. It is okay if you go after someone or something and it doesn't work out the way that you hoped. You just have to lean in to trusting yourself to get through those feelings. You're going to learn something from it. And most likely, it's not going to be as painful as you're imagining it is. And to avoid putting yourself in situations where you may face rejection is doing yourself a real disservice because you have no idea what can be on the other side of that. Um, and I'm not saying it's not going to suck. It'd be really hard for people. Um, but when you always avoid it, I think you avoid growth and you can avoid really beautiful experiences in your life.
I love that. I love that. And I think it's also embracing uncertainty
Mm,
is the biggest piece of trusting ourselves. Like we are certainty dependent. Every choice would be a lot easier if we knew with 100% certainty what would happen. But life doesn't offer us that at all. And those
mm,
who truly have extraordinary lives were not the ones with the most confidence or with the most certainty. They were the ones who probably trust themselves enough to to be uncertain and move anyway. And there's some
mm,
courage around it. And yes, it would be painful. It would feel existential. It would feel like you're dying, and probably a part of you it is dying, but it's supposed to die. So it's just
mm,
embracing that and understand that that our capacity to grieve or going through a heartbreak or just normal grief will increase our capacity to love. Like just that expands us. And I think that a lot of people don't allow themselves to truly grieve. Therefore,
mm.
their capacity to love is restricted. And we cannot have one without the other. So
I agree. I'll end with this. You're not going to often hear me say that everything happens for a reason, but I think that we can find a reason for all of the things that happen. Sometimes we have to look for it. It's not just going to come to us.
I deeply resonate with that, and I love that because I'm trying to find meaning to everything that happens to me. It's like it has to be a
No.
meaning, and sometimes like no, sometimes there's no meaning. It's like no, there has to be a meaning. What are you talking about, right? Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, once again, I have to bring you back. I love this conversation with you. I know that we did it. I want to even to go deep into your deep program actually, and but but where can people find you, work with you? I know you're a coach and you help people to approach dating with a different philosophy. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So you can find me mainly on Instagram. The username is Dating with Depth Society. The society in the name is intentional. I really, my vision is to build a community, a society of people that can all help each other share different perspectives and experiences. And I don't have exactly what that clearly looks like in the long term, but that is my intention. That is what I will create. I do have a guide on my approach to slow dating, which is also dating from self-trust, is mainly what the program talks about. I have an audio guide on it. I also have a free PDF guide if you just want to sort of read through what the framework is and apply it in your own life that way. So I've made it totally free and accessible. You can find that on my page as well. And if anybody wants to DM me, I do read all of my messages and try to reply to as many of them as I can. Yeah, so really on Instagram, Dating the Depth Society. If you'd like to listen to some of my videos and find more resources there, that's going to be the best place to do it.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed.
Yeah, go for it. No, go for it. Go for it.
I have really enjoyed this conversation with you too, Daniel. Thank you so much for inviting me on today. I would love to come back to chat with you again. I feel like there's so many wonderful little tidbits, and who knows, we could come up with another episode. But yeah, I have really enjoyed this. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for coming. It's just what I've come to realize is that when two minds like sync, they just like unlocks this new level of insights and nuggets, and it just, I mean, it's fascinating to me. I love having these conversations, and once again, I told you off cameras like I wanted to have like a different approach with this conversation. I kind of felt like we were having like a great conversation, so it was very fulfilling. I really enjoyed and I learned a lot. And it would be probably part three because, as I said, this is going to be probably broken down into two episodes because I'm going to hate myself when I'm editing. But yeah, thank you so much for coming, and everything is going to be on the description and the show notes. And Sydney, it was an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Same here. Thank you so much, Daniel. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to listening to the episodes and listening to more of your work and the other people that you interview.
Of course. Thank you.
All right.